Death is an ending. The end of a tale, the end of a song, the end of love, the end of memory. Death is an ending for the hopeless. An end to the great game. The pessimist sees death as final, not frightening or feared, just final. Your affairs must be in order. Your tales, your songs, your loves and memories better be completed. So believes the pessimist. Death is an ending, true, unless you have family. Family picks up the pen and finishes the tale. Family hums the song to completion. Family keeps the love and memories present and meaningful. Family mourns and celebrates the pause known as death. They farewell the fallen with fire, and when embers dot the sky, then the family finishes the game. Ezekon of Kreve, a witcher of over 2 centuries, has fallen. Throughout the course of his long life, he has fashioned a family found. They have told tales, they have sung songs, they have shared love, and they have made memories. His family has gathered to send him off. No, death is not an ending. With family, the story has just begun.
That's my epic tale. A champion prevailed, defeated the villain. Now pour him some ale. Toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty, oh valley of plenty. Oh, toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty. Toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty, oh valley of plenty. Oh, toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty. Toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty, oh valley of plenty. Oh, toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty.
A procession of 6 carries you into the foothills of the Kestrel Mountains, far from the crush of civilization, far from the cruelties of war in the south, far from the blossoming hatred against non-humans, mages, and witchers. Here, the mourners climb to a specific hill, one among hundreds. Half a day's ride back, you pass the last vestige of society in the small hamlet of Bilt's Hollow. Nothing more than deep woods, a logging village surrounded by a sturdy palisade of tapered and sharpened trunks. It rests in the forest like a great lower jaw or mandible of some great, unchecked beast. Forbidding, isolated, hopeless, but the citizenry, they seemed friendly enough as a delegation rode out to meet you, correctly recognizing the witchers among you. Master Witches! Master Witches! They implored. We have a grave problem. We need your assistance. We have coin. Fuck off. Sheila Loon, your guide, the elf that had gathered you all together, notifying you of the death of Ezekon of Kreve, bites sharply at these 3 men as they approach. A horse that bears both the irate and perspiring elf and the body of Ezekon of Kreve moves close enough to be heard, studied, perhaps feared. But we need help. I said fuck off. If we pass by when we return, perhaps someone will stop, perhaps. And she begins to move away. Now, these are events that have taken place a half a day ago, but these are events that are taking place now. Upon seeing this exchange, I would like to go around. Who else? Who are the other riders on horseback? How do they view this exchange? And do they say anything? JF, let's start with you, my friend.
Yes. All right. So I'm playing Dousset of Gamera, a towering, muscle-bound man with a stern expression. He wears a Lyrian leather jacket and trousers and the accoutrements of a huntsman. He has a forest green tunic that harbors a hood and an elk fur cloak. 2 hand axes are strapped to his belt, and 2 swords and a quiver hang on his back. He holds his bow in his hand. His skin is dark. He wears his hair in locks and has a neatly trimmed beard. His features are worn. There are circles underneath his eyes, and he looks exhausted. He pays the people who have come up to them no mind. He turns away from them.
And as Dousset of Gamera doesn't notice or interact, Josh, what of Eros?
Barest looks somewhat different from his traveling companion, who he has not long known. He doesn't carry the look of a witcher to most people. It's the eyes that give him away. But he doesn't have the weathered skin, the scars crisscrossing his face. He moves quietly, even on horseback. Very little conversation is offered up. He has the characteristic eyes, the sharp cheekbones, the dark hair, speckled amount of stubble. Across his back he carries 2 blades, and they are among many others. At the moment, he is wearing dark clothing that is a little finer than his traditional garb, out of respect for the journey that he is currently making. And he has nothing to say to anyone who would stop them on the road, for he has places to be and little care for the troubles of common folk.
So it is said, and so it is done. But what of Eric the Wanderer? Trooper?
Eric is a young man, maybe 30. He's got sort of dark black hair and a well-kept beard, sort of trimmed close, and he's got sort of piercing hazel eyes. He wears the clothes of a bard, clothes that are nice, sort of fine, but a little patchwork. Maybe the doublet doesn't necessarily match completely the pants. He has a good bearing about him. He is aware and sort of thoughtful. He doesn't look like he's been in battles. He doesn't have scars, but he's well built and thoughtful. And when the people come to speak, he seems immediately moved. And he says to the men, he says, "Good gentles, we pardon your pardons, but we are on a very important mission at this moment. Perchance we may aid, if we might, on our way back. I may not speak for the witchers with whom I am in company, but if there be ways that I may be of service to thee, then I would."
Yes, we're in desperate need of help. And he seems as if this is not something that is going to wait until your return. They're all kind of pulling closer to you, Eric, to give their tale. Is this something that you're comfortable with? You can obviously move your horse away, but they seem that an ear has been offered, and they are ready to fill that ear with a tale.
Good gentles, what is it that is happening? And you can tell he's not wearing sort of big, heavy armor. He's wearing sort of like a cloth armor. He has a wedding ring. But he's maybe a sort of a messenger bag, a sort of fine rapier sword. But he's not like our witchers, but he's interested in what the common folk have to say. And he listens to them.
So before they begin their tale, I will ask the other two members of the party how they would react to the exchange in its infancy before it grows beyond into the telling of a story. So we will go to Billy. Billy, who do we see atop your horse?
You see a very tall, barrel-chested man of red hair at top and beard, calm, collected, stoic, seeing this reaction take place, recognizes that it's happening, and that somehow just allows it to be so repositions his horse and starts paying attention to the person pleading.
And our final rider, Prax, who do we see?
A young woman. A young woman. Dark of hair, and her skin is tanned. She wears a cloak pulled around her head. Her hair is dark, and you can just see it kind of glinting out. She wears a blue dress. You can just barely make it out. And she doesn't turn to the people. Instead, she turns to Shinlun, and in elder speech, just asks her quietly to not make too much trouble for the moment.
She, if a nod could be said to be biting and quick, she gives it to you. It's a sharp movement, a jerk, almost not worth the expenditure of energy, but she remains silent. My friends, as we are doing experience a bit differently than Artal Sorian has in the campaign book, we are doing it like those familiar with the video game. You are awarded a mission. It could be a long one, it could be a short one. When you complete it or abandon it, you either get experience or you do not. When we started this mission, or this session, you received a mission called Farewell Hymn with Fire. You are about to receive another. This one is called A Nary a Bridge in Sight. So as the three pull forward, they immediately identify themselves. My name's Casper, I'm the alderman, this is Wilhelm and Frit. They're the gods, a child from our village was taken by a troll. The father, he was knocked down, by the time he could get back to the spot where they were picking berries, the child was gone. The man is a veteran. He fought in the south, lost his wife and his arm, and now his daughter, she's the youngest. We lost many last winter, and she was the village's child. We desperately need you. We can see that you're witches. We cannot fight such a beast.
Are you sure it's a troll?
It's huge. It's Princer, the size of trunks. It sinks 6-7 inches into hard soil. Found the tracks. We dare not face it. We are feared.
Wim turns to the rest of the crew. It's what he would have wanted.
And if a silent witness, Ezekon's body is on the back of Knucklebone, his own horse that Shilaloon is riding, she snorts. Not the horse, but the rider. This is not something that she is prepared to do, a distraction from your course of a funeral.
I am not as familiar with this particular area. Exactly how far away are we from our destination?
About half a day when you get to Built Hollow. I will also take this moment to let you all know that at some point, a Witcher or another character of Hawk's creation will be joining this story, as a donation has come in for that. So everybody, love and chat to one of our very favorite players here, Hawk. And whether he's in the stars or here on the ground, you're all in for a treat. I cannot wait, and we will have some fun. But back to the story at hand, as Sheila Loon is silent. That nod that she gave before seems to be all she wishes of this conversation.
Do you know which direction the tracks were going?
Yes, they were going up the hill, mistress. They were not far from here. No one goes far from the camp, even in the daylight. But it's...
So, in the direction we're going.
Which direction are you going?
It's a very good question. I don't know. I'm just following around. She kind of switches languages and Elder Speech asks Shalon if that's the direction that they're going.
Sheila Loon nods, but I mean, it's a quarter of the movement she gave you before. If she has a patience reserve, it is exhausted.
Then it seems to be in our way, and we should let the people who are better at hitting things go in front of us so that it doesn't hit us.
Good gentles. And the funny thing about Eric is that you can tell he's got sort of a northern accent. He's perhaps from this area, but he has that sort of, perhaps that sort of affectation of a bard who sort of speaks sort of antiquated language because it seems perhaps fancy. He says, good gentles, the babe shall be found.
They seem comforted by your words, but they still haven't heard anything from the three that they know can handle the situation. So while they kind of nod, encouraging and encouraged by your words, it's the absence of words from the three Witchers. And for a point of reference, here in the middle of nowhere, a party of 5 worthy adventuring types, traveling veterans, is rare. Seeing a Witcher is extremely rare in any part of the world. Seeing 3 together, you'd be hard pressed to find someone that's ever seen it. But they all look at the Witchers.
Don't act like he wouldn't want us to do this. You know him, he would.
Medusa's kind of self-conscious here. I think the Witchers have gathered that the other Witchers, he's been retired for quite a while, so kind of avoiding their gazes, and this particularly makes him uncomfortable. He bows his head finally and looks at Shilaloon and says, "We came here to honor him."
She remains.
This is how we honor him.
We farewell him with fire, Sheila Loon says. We are done with it. If you wish to honor him in another way, you can. Honor him in this way. It is why I summoned you. I would do this myself if I thought it would take this long.
Here for a purpose. And that purpose travels with us.
I'm gonna point out the obvious again, gentlemen. If the troll is that way, and we're going that way, odds are the troll's gonna find us before we get to where we need to be. So, I would be more along the lines of practical in the sense of don't get taken unawares. And don't get dead at a funeral. It just seems a mite overdone.
Going to agree with the one in the corset.
Well, you know, it's practical.
I glance over towards Dousset for a second. Gauge where he's at with all of this, already hearing Wim's perspective on the matter.
He looks at you and says, he would want this. Plus, I think it might do us some good.
So are we in?
If Shelaloon will agree to it.
I will make you this deal. If we get to the funeral site before we get to a troll, we burn him. If we get to the troll, then you burn it.
Either way, I'm seeing lots of fire happening in the near future.
Sounds fair to me.
Sounds like a typical response from a sorceress.
I wish I could claim that credit, Master Witcher. But I haven't been invited to the lodge. I'm not that important.
Alright, if we're doing this, then we're doing it now. I have a friend who I am here to honor. You said there were tracks.
Yes, Master. Just up the hill. You'll see them deep. It must be heavy. We are feared to go any further.
There is a matter of coin.
We have it. We lost many mouths last winter, but this winter we will be ready. It is at this particular time, Salvine, which is their version of an All Souls Day. It's about 3 days past that, which would put it at the beginning of our November calendar. It's cold here in the mountains, and winter is coming. But they look at you. We lost many, so we were able to save on food, and we have plenty of coin. The lumber has come in. We can pay you. Just please get the girl.
All right. I was saying, I don't think we should do this for payment. Not this time.
And Eric, who looked very uncomfortable with the entire discussion of money, just looks relieved as Dousset sort of says this, but says nothing because he thinks, oh, these witchers are the ones who know how this sort of thing works.
That's an interesting statement for 3 witchers to do something without payment. So I will not ignore my other 2 non-witchers, but I would like to know, perhaps internally or if it's exclaimed, what Eros and Wim think of the idea of pro bono monster slaying.
They know Dousset is no longer in the profession, I would gather.
Must have been a hell of a retirement plan to not need any additional money, but
I think Faris, if Dousset isn't interested in the money, if the bard isn't interested in the money, then that comes down to one thing. 3-way split.
You said we're craftsmen. This is what we do.
I'm a huntsman. I've been for the last decade.
And I'm starting to lose patience. You'll pay. But you're paying for the troll. You understand that.
And since you all are looking at these three, especially Casper the Alderman, there was a face journey that just went on when they heard free, and then they heard support of free, and then they heard what they thought was, the third needed vote for a majority for free, and then that turned to a three-way split. And the journey of the face dropped into tragedy, but they look, yes, master, for the troll. Yes, contract for the troll.
Fuck. All right. Show me these tracks.
They all look at each other. I'm sure you can't miss them if you just up the trail. They are on the trail themselves. It's almost like it's following it. You'll see it for sure.
We head north to the tracks. Sheila Loon, lead the way.
Fuck. And she takes Knucklebone the horse, wheels it in the direction that you were headed, and moves forward. You do
Master Whim, Mr. Witcher, sir. Do you think it's wise to allow the person that we're here to funeral to possibly become snack for a troll?
Good point.
Maybe.
I'll go first.
Thank you.
Wim takes his horse, trots it up to the front, and then heads up to on the same road to see what they come across first, the tracks or the intended funeral location.
And Eric hangs back, not being sort of middle of the pack, letting the Witchers take the point. He rides alongside Varen.
I am going to slide to the back of the group and take a moment to, between my two blades, pull the limb of a bow, hook my leg through it, and string it, unfastening a small quiver of arrows.
And a question was asked. Well, you did indeed find the tracks that were mentioned. As you continued north, you saw these troll tracks, but as suggested by Casper the Alderman, they walk along the trail. Very odd for a troll that doesn't seem to have any want for civilization, any desire to follow in the footsteps of man.
Can we take a closer look at the tracks?
You sure can. And my Witchers or anybody with monster lore may roll our first rolls of the campaign.
Can we use Witcher training, or is it monster lore?
It's
Witcher training for us.
Witcher training for you all, and then for my two non-Witchers, if you have monster lore, you may roll that. Let's wait and see what we have coming in here.
A strong 18.
It is a strong 18. Everyone is so pleased with that 18. Anybody else rolling?
Yeah, I get the prompts. I already separated them out. One moment.
Oh,
I don't have monster lore, so no, I will not. Nope.
Alrighty. So with the rolls that we have, with the DC, both Wim and Eris are able to... They agree with the villagers in that this is a troll. But as you are looking at the odd, kind of misshapen trunks of feet, they are almost as wide as they are long, bearing a strange, almost like ovoid type of shape, but with protrusions that are very geometric, very angular. You believe you are dealing with a rock troll.
We know what we're facing.
It's a little more than we bargained for.
Pardon me, good gentles. What is it that we are facing?
A rock troll.
Ah, yes.
Oh, do you know rock trolls?
No.
Right. Well, thank you for your contribution. And also, might I add, Deso, thank you for what you said, what we bargained for, by the way, which was you telling me that I was working for free. It's a rock troll.
You're gonna have to renegotiate.
Can someone else other than you maybe take the lead on that?
Pardon, gentles, but what might one need to know about a rock troll? One assumes that they are like trolls, but made of rock, perchance? No?
Their one weakness is you've got to charge straight in, especially if you're not built to take damage or hits. So, for instance, if you're really good at playing music or talking to people and not good at much else, then you go in first, and it all works out in your favor.
Good gentle, that seems quite unlikely.
Oh, you're catching on.
Can I see how far ahead it is? Can I try and attempt to see if I can take the lead on tracking? Mostly, I want to sort of like I want to go ahead a little bit from the party for two reasons. One, I'm not used to traveling in a group. And two, they're still talking. So I just want to be a distance ahead of them.
They are still talking. And you're almost going to have to fight Sheila Loon for this privilege of separation. She seems as done with this as you are. So yeah, you absolutely can run ahead and continue to track. Are you taking, I'm assuming you're just continuing on horse, you're not going on foot or anything? For
now, I will.
Okay. Yeah, you can absolutely ride ahead. The rest of you would see as Eris rides off, going around the corner and disappearing a bit, but back soon. And what do the rest of you do? Does anyone attempt to stop Eris as this happens, or?
The second I notice him leaving, I'm going to follow him.
Dousset was off taking a leak in the bushes. You just got back. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back, buddy. Yeah, so as you're able to get ahead, Sheila Loon is riding a little bit ahead, but we're going to say this before Wim, you catch up, but Eris, as you ride ahead, you see that the tracks continue. There's no deviance from them leaving the road. They continue in that direction. So you can ride separate. You can try to maintain your distance ahead of Wim. You all tell me what the story is of your travel, and I'll tell you what you run into first.
The most part of it, Eris stays ahead quietly. He has bow in one hand, no arrow knocked. He is probably ahead with Sheila Loon and enjoying the fact that maybe with a shared glance, they both acknowledge that this doesn't need to be a conversation. They are very happy for the silence and continue onwards with nary a word between them.
Sheila Loon, for one, is the happier for it.
Eric just leans over to, I suppose Dousset is the closest Witcher as they're riding, and says, good gentle, might I ask, is it normal for beasts such as these to follow roads?
No. That's I don't understand that, he says, shaking his head. Something afoot. He draws an arrow and knocks it to his bow, scanning the bushes.
All my Witchers would know that the one thing that, unless you are walking through a very rocky environment in which camouflage would come into play, the act of stealth of a rock troll is nil, unless you are someone that would miss an avalanche. They are loud, they are big, they stand out in the silence of nature.
And remembering this, Dousset relaxes. Keep an eye out still.
Can I make a check to see if I can see I'm keeping point for the party? So can I make an awareness check to see if I can ascertain any up-and-coming threats?
Yes, actually, I have been rolling your awareness checks. Everyone, I had the party roll 5 awareness checks for me, which is this system's perception check, to make sure that they are aware of their scenario. I had them roll them before we started, so I wouldn't have to ask them, and thus wouldn't have them alerted when I wanted to do something. I will let them know that awareness checks have already been used. So you see nothing.
In which case I keep traveling an eye on this, and after a short while I am going to reach to my quiver, which is not bristling, brimming with arrows. I will reach in, I will take a bodkin arrow and just knock it against the bow using the same hand I'm holding the limb of the bow with, to just loop a finger over to hold it in place but not drawing it. And as soon as I think I'm getting close, I would probably look at dismounting.
Absolutely. And so with Sheila Loon close to you, Wim, you have ridden up with Eros sort of taking point in this silence march. Are you making an attempt to ride abreast and talk to him? Are you hanging back when you... What's Wim doing at this moment?
Wim is hanging back, letting Eros have, like, it's clear that he kind of wanted that space at the lead, so he's hanging back, watching, and has the reins of his horse in one hand, and then his hand on his silver sword on his back, just kind of hovering around the area, ready to draw at any moment.
And so this is the way that the party progresses as they follow the tracks of a troll that seems to like the trail. But as you climb further up the hill, within a moment of the studded trees and the small switchback that you've been following, it is Eros and it is Sheila Loon who open into the quarter half clearing first. And there in the middle you see a pyre, stacked with seasons-old stands of trees. White myrtle plants are everywhere in the clearing, blanketing the space around the pyre. They are not in bloom, it is not the season, but you figure that when the bloom takes this place, it must be a sight to behold. But now, with the chill of late autumn, it carries a more tomb-like quality. which you may or may not find fitting. With Salvin just a few days past, the sinister quality that is so often associated with that pseudo-holiday still lingers a bit as the twilight turns to early evening. It seems to take physical form inside these dead plants, these dead husks of the white myrtle plant. But Sheila Loon swings from the back of Knucklebone, walks towards the pyre, and puts her hand on it. The rest of you kind of gather around. You may do what you would like, but you seem to have reached the spot. And because of those earlier awareness rolls that we have taken, Varen, you see that Sheila Loon is perspiring heavily.
She moves up quietly next to her and asks in Elder speech if there's anything she needs. You're looking a little peaked, darling.
Just to get this done.
Don't rush it. I feel like if we rush it, things will go wrong.
We put him to rest, and I am done with this place. I ride for the Blue Mountains, and to meet my people when this is over.
Yes, but how will we put him to rest?
The way he wished. We farewell him with fire.
I think he would have liked a troll on the pyre.
I'll leave that to you.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have expected he would wanted that. All right. Why don't... Yes, Master Wim, you had a question?
If I may speak, we made a deal. If we came across the pyre first, and we would take care of him. If we met the troll first, then we'd take care of the troll. We just came on footprints, so here we are. This end of the deal. We can farewell him with fire.
Does it not seem odd that this troll follows directly towards this pyre? Might this troll be lurking perchance?
He might be. Why do you think we have swords?
What of the tracks?
They keep going. But
They do.
we made a deal.
Funeral first. That's the doodle that was made, right?
Fair enough.
And, yeah. Shulun, why don't you come over here and give me a small hand for a moment? I think I might lightheaded.
She's leaning on her bow, which is nearly the size that she is. She stands at 5'8". She's very tall, but her bow, as she's leaning on it. Someone get him, please. Be careful with him.
Eric will move to be part of the group that moves the body.
Wim dismounts.
So does Aris.
Dousset too, but he looks like he'd rather be fighting anything than doing this.
The preparation is simple. It seems that any of you that knew Ezekon, you can tell when he would build a campfire, and you can tell by the stack of the pyre that he built this himself. in preparation, and maybe he just knew. The wood is dry, the wind is calm, the new night is clear. Who carries Ezekon of Kreve to his final rest?
Dousset will step forward. He says, he was a griffin.
You may all carry him.
Once he's on the pyre, I'd like to take a moment with him. I'm sure everyone would, but I'll probably wait until everyone else has had their chance to farewell him.
Before we do that, as we have the Witchers and we have Eric taking the fallen form of Ezekon from Knucklebone, his horse, to the pyre, there is that moment, Prax, where Varen would have the ability to talk to Sheila Loon if you wished. She is not helping, but she is not far. She has not moved away from the site.
She kind of subtly guides them so that they're not immediately hearable to anyone, and kind of leans into her and says, poison or disease, darling. It's kind of important distinction here.
Her eyes snap up towards yours. As soon as the fire takes him, it is none of your business.
It can be, and I can get it done quickly, but it's kind of important distinction here.
None of your business. You may elect to roll something here if you'd like. She is not going to allow any type of exam, but you may have ways.
Yeah, that's the thing. I do have ways. She's just gonna look her dead in the eyes and say, I'd rather not have 2 funerals today. And you know I can do a little bit to help.
Leave me be.
Not with him lying there.
Especially with him lying there.
Not with him lying there.
You see fire, not literal, but lance through her eyes, and she pulls herself close. You can feel that her breath is warm in this chill air. You leave me be.
I don't leave anyone, particularly not with him lying there. So, darling, tell me, poison or disease, because it's only going to take me a minute to determine which one.
You do what you must.
Good, then I'll take that as consent. And she starts pulling small pouches from her belt in various places inside of her cloak, and she proceeds to cast a cleansing ritual.
As soon as you start anything like that, Sheila Loon moves off, and she moves towards the pyre.
I don't think I actually have to touch her, though.
She does. You just see her kind of creep away to the side, and she stands there, waiting as the others place Ezekon onto the pyre. Prax, keep a mental clock for that, because I think it takes a bit for you to do that. As that is going by, this is the moment where, with the night in full effect and the stars arrayed upon the stage of the sky, the wind is calm as stated, the wood is dry. Everyone is circling around Ezekon of Kreve, a person that they've known in various ways and various means for various lengths of time. But he means something to each of you. Certainly not the same thing, perhaps, but it's at this moment that if you wish to say goodbye in your own way, it is something that must be said now.
Wim steps forward. I'm not good at shit like this. So, I'll say something. It was nice knowing you. And I wish we had more in those last couple of years. Should have never made that bet, that agreement. Shouldn't have done it. I hope it was worth it. He puts his hand on Ezekon, kind of like grips the clothes into his fist, and lets go and faces outward away from everybody towards the wilderness with his arms crossed.
And Billy, that's an excellent segue as Wim clutches the clothing. As he was wrapped before and now unwrapped, you would all notice that he wears nothing that you recognize. His armor, swords, medallion, everything is gone. The clothes look more like something that would be akin to one given of charity or perhaps a beggar. Though you have not asked it, in her description, Sheila Loon led you to believe that when she found him hanging in that town square, he was naked.
Dousset will solemnly approach his friend's body and bend a knee to his fallen friend. He looks bone-weary, and though witchers have been conditioned to not feel fear, he seems afraid. He pulls a blood-red scarf from his pocket, unfolds it, and gently passes it over Ezekon's face. He then raises it to his own, clutches it there, and for a moment, you see this strong, hard, towering man crumple. His shoulders sag and he grits his teeth, sucking in his breath. Then, grunting, he hardens again and wipes his face with the scarf and ties it around his neck. He turns to the people assembled and with a bit of a tremor in his voice, he says, Ezekon was my first friend in the north. And to an orphan, a friend is everything. I remember how one winter day we were playing by the shore, and I fell through the ice. And he was the only one who helped me. Ezekon's, once we burn him, He says, looking at the pyre, Ezekon's body will be no more. But his spirit will survive through us and through our memories. We're all that is left of who he was. So I believe we must stick together and do his memory justice. And I'll step away and avert his eyes.
As Dousset steps away, for the first time, you would all see Sheila Loon with her hood up, but her hand quivering, reaches out as he passes by. It pauses a moment, an inch or two above his arm, and it doesn't grab, but grazes and drags as he walks past. And without the need for a roll, you can all hear that she is weeping. Anyone else?
Is that it? No one's got something else to say? Just the two of us?
Faran is still casting. Ritually casting.
I glance over towards the bard. Having heard him talk quite a great deal on the way here and seeing him now silent, give him a probably more judgmental look than is genuinely meant, but just a cold, withering stare.
The awkward silence with just the chanting in the background. Eric sort of standing back, waiting for the closer circle to sort of speak or move, but then they don't. He pulls out his lyre and just sort of still staying a little bit farther back, he just begins to sing. Fortune, my foe, why dost thou frown on me? And will thy favors never better be? Wilt thou, I say, forever breed my pain? And wilt thou not restore my joys again? In vain I sigh, in vain I wail and weep, in vain my eyes, they refrain from quiet sleep. In vain I shed my tears both night and day. In vain my love, my sorrows to bewray. Now shall I leave this man in fortune's hands, my dearest one, in most unconstant bands, and only serve the sorrows due to me, sorrow hereafter, thou shalt my mistress be. I did not know the man. You knew him in ways that I never had. But I knew stories of him. Heard tales of his bravery. Of the good deeds that he did throughout the land, making it safe for common folk, for everyone. I have many regrets in my life. Perchance my greatest is that I never got to know Ezekon of Kreve. But I will remember him. I will learn his story. I will learn his fate. I will learn the names of those who killed him. And this story will never be forgotten. And he backs away from the pyre with a hesitation. And then steps back towards the pyre, towards the body, and leans down to where the head of this man is, and whispers something into his ear, and then touches his hand on his chest, and lets it linger there for a moment, his back to you. A small shudder goes down his spine of sorrow. And he just says, I'm sorry I never got to know you. And he steps away, and he leaves space at the pyre.
Wim would, from looking away, you would find that after you started playing the song, he's looking at you wide-eyed. Comes over to you, puts his arm around your shoulder. That was real good, what you did there. Real good. Be proud.
And he just, tears roll down his face, and he nods. And he sort of stays right there beside you in that way in which there's like the comfort of being around someone in a moment like this without words.
Glancing over towards Varen, seeing that she is done with, or still taking part of whatever it is she is doing, he will take a moment to walk over, crouch beside the man, and he will reach up underneath a small black shoulder scarf. He will reach up and he will unfasten a small bracer made of leather, beaten far more than the rest of his attire. Takes it and lays it down. It is a set of daggers. Nothing expensive looking. Quite clearly there were once 5, there are now 4. And he lays it across Ezekon's chest. No one should go into the next life without a blade at their side. Sorry I'm late. The hour is late. But I'm here, as you asked. I don't know what it is that you spoke of. I don't know what I'm looking for. if now could be the time. For me. For tears. I need that. What you promised me. I'm shit at these things. The bard said it better. You will be missed. But your work will live on. And I'll find him for you. I give you my oath. I'll take a moment to just stand, put a hand to the daggers that are across his chest. And then glancing over to see if anyone else is going to step forward. As Varen seems to be in the midst of spellcasting.
She was, but no longer.
Professional streamer, y'all. She's taken a bunch of small chalk and basil and a couple other herbs and has been grinding them slowly in her hands. And she's been very focused and staring at Shenlong. And she releases it out and just kind of lets it drift towards her as she casts Cleansing at Shenlong.
Now, ideally, and this is our first time with magic here in The Witcher, Prax, if you could, if Varen is successful with this, what would occur?
If it's anything short of plague, if I roll high enough, she's relieved of it. Alcohol, poisons, general illnesses, it has different DCs depending. But
let's get that roll then.
Yeah, let's see if this works, y'all. Fingers crossed. It didn't roll. I'll have to do it the other way. This way. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, spellcasting. Straight up.
Spellcasting, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's a 24.
24 is pretty good. As the elements that you have been crushing drift out, again, as mentioned before, there's no wind to carry it, or there wasn't. But now it seems that a wind has joined the funeral a bit. Not a gale or a gust, just a representative. You would all remember that the wind usually always followed Ezekon around, and it buffets his long graying hair, but it also carries magic. Varen's magic. You see that it does, in fact, go towards Shulaloon. You're not sure if it did anything.
She just breathes deep and shakes her head and walks very precisely, almost perfectly precise, and still wearing the black cloak over the long kind of gossamer blue dress that she has, and with her very oddly practical yet impractical boots. The leathers and are durable and well made, but the heel height is slightly odd and it's very impractical for walking around in the woods, but somehow she seems effortless in this, entirely effortless. And she just walks straight up to Ezekon's body and puts a hand on the middle of his chest and leans down. I show up when I mean to. And I did.
A strand of his hair blows across his face.
She takes it and puts it very gently back across his ears and kind of almost pins it back, twisting it by herself. And she pauses for a second and leans down and whispers in his ears something, almost a breath that no one can hear. And as she stands up, she reaches onto her wrist, and none of you would have seen it. It didn't exist. It wasn't there a moment ago. And suddenly there's a small bracelet that she's tying around his wrist. It's leather and silver. And as she ties it, you can see the Barest shake in her hands. And she stands, and then looking at everyone else, breathes out and almost like she's gritting her teeth, and so she doesn't fall apart here, and she can't fall apart here. So somebody has a torch, right?
I look to Sheila Loon for a second to see if she has anything to add, but I extend my hand towards it. And I will pause for a moment to look to Wim, look to Dousset.
Mistress Sheila Loon, you were the one who brought me here. If thou hast words to say, we shall wait for them.
What I have to say, I will say as he burns.
Igni.
Igni.
And then he'll take out his silver sword, stab it in the ground, take one knee, and place his head on the hilt of the sword.
And as the three witchers cast their sign of Igni, the fire leaps, borne quicker by the wind that is acting as witness, carries it down to the dry wood beneath Ezekon of Kreve. And the witcher begins to light and to burn. His beggar's clothes go quickly from him, but his body holds longer than perhaps it should. One last moment to remember him, the glow of the fire casting more life into his pale flesh, giving him for a moment that quality that you remember of him. But then he is ablaze. He is part of the sign, the ending cycle of the life of a witcher. Sheila Loon reaches up and pulls back her hood. It is only now that everybody sees just how sunken her eyes are, just how gaunt her cheeks. Her nose runs. Her eyes weep. Ezekon of Kreve believed in me. He supported me, lifted me up when I was laid low. We spent 50 winters together. 50. I shall never know another, nor love another as I love him. Goodbye, my friend, my companion, my partner. Goodbye. And she collapses.
Eric rushes over to her. She alone? And tries to see what's going on with her.
She is cold and warm at the same time. She is covered in goose flesh and sweat, her clothing beneath the cape completely soaked through. She had to have been suffering this entire journey. She didn't say anything.
Can nothing be done?
And with that proclamation, you all have received a mission. This one is called The Sickness of One Left Behind.
I'm not a healer, Mr. Bard.
And with that sort of impotence, right? He sort of shakes her shoulders, knowing that it seems like there will be nothing that can be done. She knew me.
Well, she's not dead yet. So we only have one funeral to be planning. Don't be rushing to have a second.
He goes through his bags, hoping he can find something in there that might help. As he kind of steps aside in case he doesn't know if witchers are healers, and so he looks through his bag, sort of quickly, hoping he can find something.
Veron who had been standing perfectly still right next to the pyre. She hadn't even moved when the Witchers cast. She was just standing there. Kind of strides over, sort of half angry at everything, and she goes, I know if it was anything short of plague, it would have worked. It would have been healed, it would have been done, it would have been fine. So please let me see if she actually has plague, in which case we have a much, much bigger problem on our hands.
Eric steps back, still hoping to find something.
How far away are we from the house, from the cabin area that we were from?
Built Hollow is half a day, but it is the closest that you know.
That's where the townspeople approach this?
You figure now that you know the lay of the land, you all are accomplished riders, you could probably cut that time down considerably.
Was there a doctor in that town?
Remember how I said plague?
There's a lot we can't account for.
And she just kind of stamps her foot and turns and looks at Wim, and she's not a tall woman, maybe 5'4", 5'5" at the most. And she looks him up and down and says, do I question your ability to kill things?
Topics never come up.
Have I ever give the impression that I don't think you can do your job?
Mistress, please.
Yes, fine. When I say it doesn't, if anything short of plague would have gone, it would have gone. So you want to bring plague back to the village? Let me see what else I can do first.
So you're implying it's a curse?
But it could be, couldn't it?
If it's a curse, well, let me figure out if it's a curse. If it's a curse, then I can get rid of the curse.
All right.
Lifting curses is not actually that hard, if you are willing to do the work for it. Most of the time. Theoretically, possibly. I do pretty well with that one, actually. Can I just roll magical training to see if she's cursed?
You absolutely can. That was my next suggestion. So, with that, your particular area of expertise being called into question here, you may absolutely roll. So I would like to know that through this moment, Dousset, Eros, what are you doing?
That's a crit with a 27, but I can roll my crit roll. So a 31.
31's pretty good. Let me see what Dousset and Eros are doing real quick.
Dousset is watching his friend burn. And he's not paying attention to anything else.
Aris is also watching his friend burn, but he is looking for something. And almost as if the old man could hear him, he quietly says, probably only loud enough for Dousset himself to hear. You don't owe me anymore. The least you could do is give me what you promised. Something. And I wait to see if there is anything.
Eros, you don't see anything, but Dousset, for a moment as you watch, you see as the wind whips around through the growing fires, and for a moment, there's that natural concern of a huntsman that in a wood that's dry like this, if this wind decides it wants to play unfairly, it could catch a forest alight, but it doesn't. It lifts the flames from the pyre and carries them into the sky in a bit of a cyclone for a moment, but within that cyclone, as it rises 15, 20 feet above the pyre, you see the flames spread, growing 2 wings. You see a large, beaked flame head as it stretches and screams the crackle of a campfire. And it flies towards the sea. And you know it flies towards Saren.
Dousset will look to his companions, trying to discern if this could be anyone's doing. And once he sees them preoccupied with other things, he'll turn their direction where that fire went, and a look of yearning in his eyes.
As Dousset turns to watch the flight of fire, a farewell of such, Eros, you see at the base of the pyre a splash of purple. No, not purple. Blue.
Take a fraction of a second to just mutter to myself, Quinn. And I will reach for it into the flames.
Your hands settle along it. It is cool to the touch.
Can I bring it out?
You can. You've seen something like this before.
Shit, how big is it?
Same size.
Can I do with this what I did with the last? If I know there's already something, can I do a switcheroo whilst I'm in relative solid?
Sure.
Okay, in which case I reach out, and in an instance it is gone, and I take that knife and I slot it carefully into the back of my belt where the empty sheath is. Okay, old man. We'll do it the hard way. And I stand, nod to him, and start heading towards my horse.
Back around Shilaloon as the fire burns down, quickly consuming the body of Ezekon of Kreve. With a critical success, Varen is able to realize that this is neither sickness nor plague, nor poison, nor curse. This is a self-imposed hex. You would recognize it with a crit as the Widow's Hex. It may only be cleared in a graveyard.
She literally stands there and looks and sees Eros starting to leave, and sees Wim and Dousset distracted, and Eric
By your side.
standing there, and she goes, and she says loudly and in the tongue of the North, so there's no confusion for anyone. She says loudly, "You have no right to cast that." So I'm going to relieve you of it, whether you like it or not. Mr. Witchers, how much money is it going to cost me to get you to help me drag this wonderful elf, who apparently seems to be suffering from some sort of delusion, to a graveyard?
Well, we've got a rock troll to kill. You can add it to the list.
Preferably sooner rather than later.
He glances at her, looks back up at Varen. Doesn't look like she's going anywhere.
No, she's gonna die relatively quickly.
Well, fuck.
How quickly?
I mean, I could slow it down a mite.
With a crit, I'll give you enough to know. Double timing it back to the nearest graveyard, which would be at Built Hollow. It's going to be down to the wire.
Hey, Mr. DM.
Yes.
Knowing what I know about this hex, and that it's partially grief-driven, and would it be conceivable for Varen to possibly know that she could maybe relieve some of the grief and therefore delay it a little bit?
Oh, I like where you're going with this. You want to siphon off some of the grief so it doesn't fuel the hex?
Or more accurately, transpose the motion that's possibly fueling the hex?
Oh, see, that's your explanation. What I heard was I want to take some of the grief for myself and carry a bit of the burden. And I like that.
Well, she'll do that.
What about a massage?
It's not really going to help, Mr. Wim. I mean... And she kind of looks at Shilaloon and says, "I don't like you well enough to do that. But I'm not doing the second funeral, and I said that. So."
Do we split up?
When there's a rock troll about, I'm not sure splitting up is a good idea.
DM.
What if the witches take care of the rock troll, and Varen and Eric make haste back to the town?
Splitting the party sounds like a great plan to me if I have a vote.
Whenever GMs say that, I feel like it's a trap.
Question for the DM. Whilst this is going on, can I take a moment to go away and examine what I found? Because they seem to like talking. It's really easy to get them talking, so I'm like going to go away for a moment.
Sure.
I'd like to just take my horse a short distance away, but before I get too close to the edge of this clearing, I'd like to give a cursory glance around to check that I'm not walking too close to tracks or anything that might have been drawn by the fire.
Yeah, everything seems good. I have used your third awareness roll.
Can't remember if my third one was good or not. Is there
Wasn't
any kind
bad.
of roll I can make to check this? I know what it is, but I'm not sharing that right now.
I'm not going to make you. I am going to let you know that this is exactly what you think it is. And it has no business being here.
I take a moment, I look at it, mentally question it, and then during all this, I slowly turn around and just from the edge of the clearing, probably observed by not many people, I glare at the sorceress for a second. And then I close my fist around it and it is gone. And fuck. And I will saddle up and gently ride my horse over to the others.
At this point, Ezekon of Kreve, as you knew him, is gone. Dousset, you see a spark that has flown off into the night sky. It too disappears. But what do you all do?
You asked me how much it would cost. Trade.
What do you want?
I'll tell you when you need to know.
It's not how this works.
Seemed to be that way when you two were negotiating earlier.
What negotiation? I wasn't part of any negotiation.
I will reach behind me and produce a lump of blue rock. Not a massive lump, in my hand. You tell me everything you know about this, down to the last detail.
While they are talking, Eric has gone to the pyre and kneels down to mourn while this somewhat aggressive conversation is happening.
Okay.
Do I recognize blue stone?
You can roll me some of your training.
Cool. Cool. It's a 24.
I will whisper it to you. Unless, of course, it's okay for me to say, but I'm not the...
It's up to her.
Intriguing. You have blue meteorite. What do you want with it?
You to observe it. That's it. You tell me everything you can tell about it.
You want me to observe a stone for you. Everything I know about this particular stone in observation or analysis in the next 12-hour period, and you help me get this woman to a graveyard. Clock is ticking.
So is the clock ticking for the child?
I know.
I hand her the stone.
All right, then. I mean, do I need to roll again?
No. This is a time thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Okay,
need
so-
time with this. This isn't
Okay.
even
good.
the
I was like-
greatest of scientists and magicians need time sometimes.
I was that's what I was gonna say. It's like, you're gonna have to wait on that one. All right, then.
Aris just looks to you looks around to the others. Put her on my horse.
Before, if we're splitting up, do you mind if I do a small thing? And she kind of breathes deeply for a second. Works a little well sometimes. Can I have a lock of each of your hair?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What kind of
But for-
bullshit is this?
So I can find you if I need to.
You're riding with me.
Yeah, I know, but they're not.
What they do is their business.
And she kind of looks over at the pyre.
Where Eric is knelt.
Where Eric is knelt. And glances at Eric, but looks beyond, almost like she's looking at Ezekon, and shakes her head for a second and says, that might be, but you were all family to him once, right?
No.
Still are.
Oh no, you can lie all you want, Master Eros. Family doesn't always have to like each other. They don't even have to get along half the
Listen
time.
to me, you seem to be someone who likes to have a long conversation, and as much as I appreciate that in other people, right now I find myself slightly on a timescale, so if you want me to get this
Fine.
fucking woman,
You pick her up, put her on her horse.
I dismount and I will give her exactly how long it takes me to get Shilaloon back on my horse, and then I'm riding. And if anyone is waiting behind, then fuck them, but I am 100% set on my task.
I wonder what your charisma score is. I just have questions, but go on. I feel like Eros is like high charisma part of the party. I think he's the face.
Wait a minute. You guys have charisma scores?
Hey, you're on the wrong sheet.
And there you go. Varen just nods and then glances to Wim and Dousset.
So we'll pull out his dagger, cut off one of his locks, piece of it, hand it over to her, say, I hope you find us.
Finding you won't be the problem. I can always find you.
Eric takes, after he finishes what he's doing at the pyre, takes a small lock of his hair, and he says, as he hands it over to you, really speaking to Eris, although he's facing you, he says, a grave injustice was here done. This man, Ezekon, was accused of being a traitor, and he was murdered. That cannot stand. His name must be cleared.
Who called him a
Tread
traitor?
very carefully with your next few sentences, bud.
Dost thou have something to say, Master Eris? And he turns to face Eris as he hands the lock of his hair to Varen.
We done?
Get going, I'll catch up.
Witchers, just so we're clear, you would all know that a rock troll is no joke.
Right. Seems kind of foolish to go against a rock troll without firepower.
What kind of firepower do you need, Master Dousset?
Whatever you have at your command.
Fire's not my skill of choice. Fire's very much not my skill of choice.
You have other talents?
Yes. Oh, I'm no great sorceress like Yennefer or Sabrina, but I do all right.
Well then. Maybe we can make it quick and...
I'll go with you. I can find... If Master Eric goes with Eros and the Shinlun, I can find them. It'll be fine.
Who's going to lift the curse? Can you do that? Can
Yes,
Eric do that?
I can do that, don't worry. I'm going to...
Know why you hold that stone. This was your deal.
Fine,
Want to change
fine,
it, change it.
fine. All of you are such men! And as she does that, her hands just start to freeze over. And she just breathes out and shakes them out. And she turns and, not looking at Eris, addresses Shenlong and says, in Elder speech, this is all of your fault. And if that... Honest to God, I promised him I wouldn't let this happen, so it's not happening. And she turns and says, let's deal with the damn troll and we can save her damn life. And I don't have to deal with another damn funeral.
What is wrong with her?
She cursed herself. Well, hexed herself, to be more honest.
What curse? What hex?
The widow's hex.
Question for the DM.
Appropriate.
I
Yeah?
know something.
Yes.
The additional information that I know,
Sure.
would that potentially, she was talking about maybe stemming the pain a little bit. Do I think that if I potentially told her something that I know that maybe Sheila Moon didn't, it would help alleviate some of the curse, buy us a little time?
I like where your mind is, and I leave it entirely up to you.
Can I make a check for it of any kind just to go with my gut? I don't care if it's a Hail Mary check.
Let's do
I
some
will speak
Let's
to
do some Witcher training. Yeah.
Also, do we know what the widow's curse hex is?
Yes, you would. As soon as it's brought to your attention, it's one of the more common hexes because it's something that a widow or a widower would elect to perform on themselves when they lose their significant other. And it's something that it's born exactly as Varen said, of grief. It's fueled by it, and then ultimately it's consumed by it. Also, somebody would probably know this and share, the widow's hex is also given to people to see if they truly did care about the person that passed away. Because if they didn't, their grief wouldn't consume them because they wouldn't have any.
Ouch.
On a 19, and I will actually spend a point of luck to make that a 20. It makes a difference.
Sure does. Seems like a good idea.
I looked to her for a moment, and I lean down and again quietly say to her in Elder speech, you loved him. Fine. He was a man of the world. He spoke of you. But I'll tell you right now that you weren't the only one. You're dying for a man who wouldn't have done the same for you. Now pull yourself together. And I kick my heel onto my horse and start riding.
I don't speak Elder speech. I don't know. It was just intense.
I somehow feel like I'm in trouble, but it's because I am. What would the rest of you like to do?
Varon looks at Wim and Dousset and says, I can find you anywhere you go. I can find Eric and Eros with Shilun. Whichever you need. Do you need me? Because I can do a little bit to help you. Or I can lift that woman's curse from herself.
Well, I think 2 Witchers against the rock troll. I think we might have more funeral pyres. But that's fine with me.
You're not dying yet either. All you Witchers in a big old hurry to die.
I'm here to get the nuts of a rock troll.
I don't believe they have any external sexual organs.
Just one way to find out. Shall we go hunting?
If you're going to get that personal, I'm going to stand back here and you can get that personal with the rock troll on yourself.
Will we have enough time to also, after, to bring Shilaloon to have her curse lifted?
I'm slowing it down. So please, if you'd be at might, there is a bit of a time clock on this, but could you do it in a bit of a hurry?
Yes, mistress.
Don't call me that. I haven't earned that title.
Well, since we're in a hurry, shall we be off?
Joe.
Yeah.
Wim would follow the tracks of the rock troll, trying to be at the front of the pack, trying to discern anything about the tracks, its direction, and if anyone wants to accompany him, they're more than welcome. But he's heading out first.
If the general census is that we're all going for the rock troll, then Eros would have been probably at the head with Wim. I'm going wherever the sorceress is going.
Dousset's going to join his 2 brothers. Now, about rock trolls, I'll ask the other Witchers about rock trolls. Do you think there's a way we could lure it somewhere?
Well, if the fire didn't scare it off or lure it, then we have to go hunting.
Well, what do they eat? I mean, perhaps our horses could prove.
We've got a spare horse.
Well, maybe we can use it as bait.
I don't know why it took the child.
Yes.
While we followed it, the trucks led side by side with the road. That we still can't answer for.
Well, the only answer I have is that it might be under someone's control for it to be acting so.
Perchance we can save the child without confronting the rock troll.
If the troll ain't already dead.
Trolls, they're not... They're smart. Smarter than your average beast, at least. They can be convinced, they can be reasoned with. Stands to reason someone else could reason them to go after a creature, a kid. They can talk. They can have opinions.
Maybe they like songs.
Chance.
Perhaps it brought the child to someone.
We're trying to solve problems we don't know. Let's find the troll. Get the information when we get there.
Wim, I know you like a fight. But do yourself a favor and don't let this thing hit you. So I don't know you. But if Ezekon invited you, then you must be worth something. If someone can lure it out, then sure as hell give it a surprise. I like my odds against a beast like that. They're slow, they're easy to skirt around.
And we can track it to its lair and try to lure it out.
Well, what are we waiting for?
All right.
Greg, what do my Witcher eyes see?
What are you looking for? By the way, congratulations to our winner, XJERE. Please DM me on the Twitter with email address, and I will make sure you get your PDF copy of Our Talsorian Games, The Witcher Core Rulebook. Congrats.
I am looking for tracks. I'm looking to see how recent they are, to see how close we are.
Make me an awareness roll or wilderness survival, please.
If I have the same thing, should I also make those rolls?
Absolutely, yeah. You can. I have no problem with you doubling up here.
All right, I'm going to use my Witcher skills for that, if that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, so many things. Hold on. Huh.
We're riding ahead. Aris just keeps tense in his saddle, just digging his feet into the stirrups and sort of keeping light. And he'll keep a hand sort of close to his shoulder, ready to draw his blade.
Okay, and this is everyone's going after, or you all are heading... Are we still splitting up? I was focused on the giveaway there for a second. I didn't hear if you all were splitting or staying, or...
We're doing it as a group, hoping to be swift so we can, with two different people's slowing down the hex, we're hoping we can get the rock troll, the child, and then still get back in time to save Shilaloon.
Absolutely. So at this point, I will ask, as we are beginning this trek, I will ask for the first roll from Varen, a D10, please.
Eight.
Please lose 8 stamina points, as that is going to be your grief fuel.
Cool.
Ooh.
Doesn't hurt.
It doesn't. You're like, I eat grief for breakfast.
Oops, all grief.
Okay, so as you all are able to roll out here, you can see that we're going to say that you follow these in whatever order you would like to set these up. Cumulative skills here, you have 3 Witchers. This is a large, lumbering creature that isn't trying to hide its tracks. You follow for about an hour, and you realize that the trail that you are on, the one that passed over the hillock that was the quarter clearing with the pyre, is now doubling back down the hill.
Is it heading back? Like doubling back as in...
It turned around?
Not doubling back along the trail itself is looping like a needle's eye and seems to reach an apex, and then the big lumbering footprints continue along the trail, only now you're going down a new trail that is going back downhill. But again, with witchers, with a bard, with a sorceress, a mage, you're able to go down, and you can tell that you're heading in the same direction in which you came before. The stars are the same.
Is there any deviation in the tracks? Does it look like it stopped anywhere? For example, did it this morning come, bring the child back, leave the child somewhere nearby? Like, did it deviate off a path, or is it just looped around?
Continued along the path as far as you can see, with the rolls that you have and the awareness that I've done already for you all.
Strange.
I'll keep on.
Could this be a creature under a curse, perhaps? Perhaps not a troll? Or something like this, perhaps?
None of this makes sense.
There's no curse I know that would do that to a person.
Some kind of magic.
No Doppler that can get that big.
So, like, at the apex, is there anything on the ground in terms of things that would cause it to change direction, to stay on the road? No clear objectives that it might have dropped in a location and then retreated?
No, I'm assuming that you are kind of scanning the nearby area as you walk through too, and not just kind of blindly following the tracks. You don't see any type of variance. There's nothing that draws the tracks off of the trail either. There isn't like a fallen tree that would cause it. It's straight down the middle of this fairly small trail to begin with, but it's even, it's measured, its pace is always within the boundaries of the trail.
Moment. Glance back. You said we had elevation. Can I see the smoke from the pyre?
It's nighttime, but you can track it and see the dull splash against the stars. Sure.
Is it heading in that direction? Did we draw it towards the pyre? Is that why it looped around?
It looks like it might be.
Might have doubled back for the fire.
Then we would go back there post haste.
I'm going to pick up the pace and start really riding with not much consideration for the fact that I'm carrying a passenger.
Varen, could I have a D10 roll for me, please?
Sure. 7.
That is 7 stamina points. That.
Cool.
How is... I know that the answer is perfect, but I will ask anyway because that's sort of my job. How is Varen looking?
Fine. Varen always looks fine. No, I mean literally. If any of you looked at her, her appearance hasn't changed.
Might I ask a question about Varen then?
Mm-hmm.
Being Bardley, I'm quite good at grooming and etiquette and fashion and many of these things. What might I be able to tell of Varen from your carriage, from your clothing and style?
That she looks fabulous. She's very well dressed. She has money. She spends it well.
Mm-hmm.
She looks good. She looks young.
Classy?
Classy.
Mm-hmm.
Very well dressed. Very well put together. Doesn't look like she spends a lot of time on the road. But doesn't look uncomfortable on the horse either.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I mean, Master Bard, she's a graduate of Aretusa.
Yeah. Just wanting to confirm.
She's a graduate of Aretusa. You would know that.
Yeah.
A recent graduate, but a graduate. And a newly ascended.
Eric will also sort of pick up the pace. Clearly, there seems to be something suspicious happening, and perhaps some sort of shenanigans. And so Eric is also wanting to sort of push that pace in case they've been drawn away, like in case there's something that might be they should move faster rather than slower.
Okay.
He's becoming sort of uneasy about the sort of situation that we're in.
But you all are continuing to follow the tracks, correct?
Yes. At a quicker pace.
The tracks would double around. They would seem to loop around a way, but they don't pass directly by the pyre. They do, however, reach back up to the original trail that you were on. You can see that the stomps and the prints that you followed up with the pyre are now doubled, as you see that the troll is apparently retracing its own steps back towards the village of Built Hollow.
Well, at least it's heading towards our next destination.
Gonna ride hell for leather.
Wim would unlatch the helmet from that he's got strapped to his side, put it on his head, and hastily ride next to ours.
And Dousset will join.
Eric will keep pace with Varen, but does not feel good about any of this. Just for the record, just so you know.
Okay. The tracks continue as the trail flows towards Built Hollow.
And Eric's going to just keep looking back, because there's some sort of trickery going on, some sort of misdirection. He's going to just sort of keep looking back to make sure there isn't anything behind us.
Sure, absolutely. That will be your last awareness roll. I think I'm out of everybody's now, so I will need fresh rolls when we go forward. So it gets to the point where 3 hours later, because you're picked up the pace a bit, you see Built Hollow appearing. You see the smoke rising. It's getting to be closer to early morning here. There is still in the hollow of the valley, but the sky is lightening a bit. As you get closer, however, I will need, because of the time that was spent, Varen to roll me 2d10. Okay. And not... There you go, in chat. As you get closer, you can see that there is the graveyard outside of Built Hollow, and the trail leads down. It seems as if the troll passed right by Built Hollow in the night and is continuing deeper into the valley and the forest now.
Well, like I said, if you leave her here with me, I can find you all and I'll catch up.
How long will this ceremony take?
As long as it's necessary to do so.
Would we have time to do this ceremony and then continue forward?
I'm already unceremoniously taking her off the horse. I won't drop her, but I will lay her down and remount almost instantly.
Varen, as she's talking, is is dismounting and hitching her horse to the side of the graveyard, and is not really 100% paying attention to Eric. Although not in a rude way, more in a professional.
Preoccupied.
Yeah.
With the activity outside of the palisade, you hear from the top of this very kind of like 10, 15 foot palisade wall, the sound of Casper's voice, probably roused from sleep. So have you found her?
They're working on it.
In completely unrelated news, did you hear a rock troll pass in here through the night?
There's a brief conversation. No?
The man who asked the questions gets the answers. Fair enough.
How could there?
So it didn't pass here. We're being
Eric,
tricked.
Eric's going to approach this man while in a way to buy some time for Varen to do what she's doing, right? To start trying to little run interference. Good master, can you tell us who has this troll bothered thy town before? Has this happened before? Can you give us more information? There seems to be something untroll-like about this situation.
No, we've never been bothered by a troll before. We've never seen it. We don't know what's untroll-like. And at this point, they notice the fallen form of Sheila Loon. Is someone hurt?
Nope.
Yes. We shall take care of it, but... good sir. Could there have been something of ill import in your town? Had someone angered someone? Has someone taken offense? Why might there be some underlying reason, perchance, that this ill has befallen your town?
Nothing. We lost many last winter. We've done nothing to anger anyone. We're a lumber village. We do not war. We do not... Do you need a healer?
No. Maybe in about 15, 20 minutes, possibly. I've got a quick question for you, though, as she's kind of multitasking.
They have not opened the gate yet, by the way. They are talking to you all from the top of the palisade.
And she's setting up everything she needs to do to dispel this ritual and this hex that has been cast. And she's kind of doing this and multitasking, and then she goes, could you possibly describe the girl?
Yes.
And bring me some water.
Water. Description. The child is... Yes.
Or maybe her father. That would work too.
He's hurt, but we will bring him.
Okay, that works.
Question. So they haven't let us in yet?
But the graveyard's outside of the town.
The graveyard is outside of the town, yes.
Okay.
But here's how everything plays out. The graveyard is open to you. The water is brought, and it's also brought out by a very old man in these kind of, not dirty gray robes, but they're kind of gray and mottled by design. You would recognize this as a priest's vestments. He has a large, almost like a metal pitcher of water that the sides are sweating a bit. Even in this chill, you probably think it was probably set in snow of some kind, and brings that forward, and a litter is drawn out, 4 people carrying a 5th. The man upon the litter does not have an arm. His right arm is gone, but that seems to be an old wound. His head is wrapped, though, covering his left eye, soaked through on the side. It's that brown type of soak that's not, like an older wound that needs changing soon. But his one eye that you see is clear. Have you found her? Have you found my daughter?
Not yet. I'm going to work on that in a hot second. That's step 3 on the list. There's currently a list. It's step 3.
We have been searching, good sir. We have been tracking, and we are trying to solve a little bit of something mysterious. It seems as if this creature, you've seen it. Thou hast seen it, and thou perchance could describe it to us.
It's an awful thing. It's rock and
Does it make a lot of
Rolls.
noise?
it's crept up on us.
It's crept up on you before?
No, I've never seen anything like it. It crept up, hit me in my head as I turned it. It smacked me,
Right,
knocked
okay.
me down a hill. I couldn't stop myself with one good arm. She was gone by the time I climbed back. Gone.
Well, then it's conceivable it snuck by here.
Okay. Could I get a very detailed description and possibly of exactly what your daughter looked like?
Yes, just dark of hair, long down middle of her back. She's wearing a light blue dress, just long shirt. She has leather brown fawn leggings on. She's all I have.
Okay.
Is there? I just have to ask. Is there some sort of sense deception skill? Some sort of like, are you?
Human
Shitting
perception.
us?
What's going on with you? Human perception. Thank you. Can I
Human
human
perception.
perception this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure he's very sincere, and everything he's saying is completely honest. But doesn't hurt to ask.
It never hurts.
I'm going to human perception 20. I'm wanting to get a sense of, because I don't feel like this is. I feel like there's trolls. Rock trolls are not quiet. This whole thing seems. I'm just wondering. I'm just give me a sense of this fellow.
His emotion about his daughter seems genuine. And again, this isn't a magic spell, but this is a read. But again, if you've ever played poker, it seems like magic when the person across from you knows fucking everything about you. But what you would end up saying or seeing and sensing from all of this is you're not real sure it was as heroic as he's making it sound. This being hit and struggling to get... That seems a little fishy.
Wim's going to approach the man. Oi, what's your name?
Victor.
Victor. Wim. Pleasure. He extends his hand.
Master Witcher.
Whatever hand is matching his...
He's used to it. He reaches and kind of grabs the top of your hand with his left. He's lost his right.
Victor, I don't suppose you have any enemies in this town or towns nearby, do you?
None that I know of.
Any strange happenings? Have you burnt somebody's crops? Have you stolen somebody's baby? Have you taken an heirloom?
He means that with the most respect.
Yeah,
Most respect.
about halfway through this is mean. I've had my child stolen. We've suffered much. We lost so many last winter. What is this?
What's your daughter's
you
name?
Answer the questions.
Peter.
Peter. Thank you.
And how old might she be?
She's seen 9 summers.
Varan just very quietly goes and takes the pitcher of water from the priest and sets it down in front of her and starts pulling flowers and stones out of her hand as she starts whispering
Do you have
over the water.
Do you have Sheila Loon with you? Is she near you?
Mm-hmm.
For,
That's for something else, though.
for the first time in the journey, perhaps it is the grief that you're sharing. Her eyes flutter open, still feverish, and when she sees you, they narrow just a bit, and she says, "Couldn't spend a winter without him."
Well, you're going to have to learn to do so now. We're all going to have to learn to do so now. And if you'll excuse me, you're holding me up finding some child. So, you're currently number 3 on the list. The child has moved up to number 2. And she goes back to concentrating on this water. And she uses the water to see if she can see exactly what happened to this kid in the woods.
Roll me spellcasting.
Spellcasting roll. Oh, wait, hold on. Spellcasting roll. Sorry, all of the things I have to do for this.
Take your time. We are learning this fantastic system.
Oh, crit fail.
Oh, no. But that's still good. That's a good number still.
Until you subtract a 1d10.
I will tell you this, even with the crit fail, and even if you would only have a 6, because I want to talk about it.
It's a 10.
It's a 10. So you look into the water and you see the following. You see a rock troll. You see a rock troll carrying a child that matches the description of PETA. You see that this child is crying. You see just ahead in this field of kind of mind's eye vision, along the trail, you're not sure where, but it looks like where you've been further below the village, if it continued on the path that you think it did, there is, I'll give it to you, looks like a hag.
Well then, gentlemen, would you like the rock troll first or the hag first?
What a hag.
The hag that apparently coerced the rock troll into kidnapping the child.
That makes sense.
And she kind of breathes deeply for a second and shakes her head. Now I'm going to get this one back in fighting form because we need an additional person for, a hag.
The priest kind of shuffles forward and looks at you, Varen. Mistress, I can help you. Watcher, I can...
How are you at hexes?
Hexes?
Yes, she got hexed. It's might annoying.
Assist you in any way. I could, hexes might be a bit above what I'm... You need a calf birth, perhaps, but not hex.
It's all right. If you could just kind of stand there and put, let me borrow you, can I borrow you a little bit of your strength for a moment, sir? She's being a mite persnickety.
Yes, of course. He looks to be about almost 80, but he's... a little bit of his strength is his life, but he is willing to give it. He seems decent enough.
Varen is... If you looked at Varen, she still looks perfect. There is nothing wrong with her. But the minute she puts her hand out to touch this priest's arm, it's visibly shaking.
Child. He immediately covers your hand to hide that.
Yep. Cool.
Help an old man here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. I could do this the fancy way, but why don't we just do it the quick way? I'm going to dispel the hex.
Okay. You're in the right place to do so. Go ahead and roll your spell casting.
Mm-hmm.
You've satisfied all the hex. You just have to hit the DC now.
Mm-hmm. 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 $26.
Shilaloon's eyes clear of the hex that was killing her, but they fill with a hatred for Varen. You have all just satisfied the requirements and completed the mission, The Sickness of One Left Behind.
And Varen literally turns, and if anyone's watching, you can see her stumble just a little bit before she straightens up perfectly. And again, in Elder speech, to Shilaloon says, like I said, you had no right to cast that. Hag, right? There's a hag.
The priest will not let her in unless they are sure it's not sickness. That's what took us last winter. I will stay with her here. Tend to her.
Maybe talk her out of her insanity. That I can't guarantee will last very long, but good luck.
I have a sermon for that.
Eric turns to Shilaloon and sort of kneels before her, knowing that they have but a few moments before they leave to sort of deal with this hag and troll, and says, Mistress Shilaloon, you have to thou needs must survive. For my sake, if not for thine.
Roll me something here.
Would you like a persuasion?
Sure.
A 25.
You see the hatred evident in her eyes, but she looks at you, Eric. And again, almost in a mirror of that clipped nod that she gave before the ride to the pyre. It's weakened because of her state, but she clips one to you. You almost miss it, but it's there.
He takes her hands and he kisses them. And he says, I do have great need of thee. You have my thanks. And he stands.
I will watch her. Let them. He grabs a hold of one of her hands, the one that you just let go of, and kind of pats it. She rips it out. It's fine, child. Strength will returning already. Feisty. What do you all wish to do?
I'm going to follow the beefy people towards danger.
As all of this has been happening, Eros is completely unaware of the grave hag or any of that, because I literally got off my horse and I left. And none of you seem to have noticed, but I've gone. Like, I am following the trail.
Varen gets on the horse slowly but efficiently, and
Eric will give you his hand. And he's unfailingly polite. He's got exceptional manners, and not in a like, oh, you're weak, you can't do it, but just because that is what you do. He's a very, very polite. Yes, he's a very, very polite peasant.
You would notice that her hand is shaking, and she definitely lets you help her get up onto this horse. And she's gonna follow everybody.
So, Eros, you've rode off. Dousset and Wim. What do you do?
Wim had stayed for that entire exchange. So he's riding with Eric and Varen.
Dousset?
Ever since Dousset saw Iris right off, he's been kind of impatient about all this, kind of wondering when it was going to end, and when he finally sees that the hex has been lifted, he seems a bit relieved, but he seems quite eager to go, so he'll mount up.
Okay. So as all of you ride off, you can hear the priest kind of call out as he was either pinched or slapped by Sheila Loon. Yeah, I want you! As you all ride off, and the litter is being taken back inside the palisade, and Victor yells from the back of it, "Get my daughter!" as it goes inside. But I'm going to cut to Aris, who is hell-bent down the trail, right, my friend? Well, it just so happens that earlier in the evening, we had somebody contribute for Wind's Howling. And so as that plays out, as you ride around a corner, your horse having no opportunity to jump over the stone fence that seems to have come out of nowhere, you feel the crack of your horse's front two legs as you pitch over, and a troll relieves its two arms from the trail as it stands to its full 8-9 feet in height, and a good 4 or 5 miles away from the town of Built Hollow, you hear coming from the forest, but no definable area. It's both in right ear and left, and you know what this means. You know there is magic afoot, and you hear, "Foolish witcher! Why do you follow?"
Can I roll to recover from being knocked off my horse? Is my horse like taken out?
Your horse is taken out, but I would like you to roll me a athletics to see how you land.
Okay. $19.
You land and kind of slide on your right knee, all of your armor and leather taking the movement, but your horse is not afforded that same action as you watch as it flails, hundreds of pounds of horse flesh now with legs that are sundered. And as that comes out from the woods all around through every ear, "Why do you follow?"
I'm here for a go. And I draw silver in one hand and reach behind me, and the blade I take out, one in each hand. Just a go.
"You fool! Get nothing! Nothing!" And as the rest of you round the top of a hill across this small wash of valley, maybe a half-mile away, you see as Eros pulls himself up and a rock troll pulls himself up. You are a distance a ways, but that is a story for another sun.
No!
No.
I am gonna kill myself a rock troll.
Oh boy.
Oh, my friends, that was fantastic and fun, and I love you all so very much. Let us go around and talk to everybody and see where we can find them online. Let's go backwards and start with Prax. Prax, my friend, what can we do?
Hey all, this was fun and great. And wait, is it Wednesday yet? No,
Yes.
apparently not in the right way. I don't know. But hey all, you know me. I'm at Deirdre Dullman on Twitter or Praxagorathesmiaphoria as you see me hanging out in the Twitch chat. And tomorrow I'm over on Wandering DM for some premiere of Masks. We're gonna be doing some of that. And then Friday, if you like Telstorian and you want to see me play an entirely different Telstorian game, we have our Cyberpunk Red game, and Trins is nothing like Varan in any way, shape, or form. And then I run, Saturday I'm running some Vampire the Masquerade on Wandering DM, and I'm picking up and helping Kika out for some Chronicles of Darkness Seattle by Streetlight on Onyx Path on Monday. So keep my track of the Twitter. I always post where I'm going to be, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Bets on if Josh lives against a rock troll.
Fantastic, my friend. As we drop straight down to the bear himself, Billy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. This was great. I love beginnings. I love origins. I love all of this stuff, and like, there's so much life being exhaled into this world. It's great. If you like following people on Twitter, you can follow me at Bill of the Forest. If you don't like following people on Twitter, then fucking cool, I guess. You can see me on this very channel on Mondays for Realms Remembered, which is a D&D 5e campaign that Greg's DMing as well. And then pretty soon coming up here, Greg and I are also playing in a web DM Simbaroom game, which is going to be DAF, which is dope as fuck, as the kids say. And then I'm just going to be thinking about this shit all week, getting to meet you guys all in person, as well as being able to play with you. And Trooper, that was fucking amazing, man. I got a fanboy out right now. That was dope. That was daff.
Daff.
And I can't wait to be back here. I'm so excited, so stoked. Thanks everybody in chat for helping out. Thanks for everybody who will be eventually watching on VOD. This was an awesome time, expertly put together and ran by Greg and expertly played by everybody else. It's a privilege to be here and play with y'all.
Oh, buddy, right back at you. But hey, I for one appreciate the segue. Trooper, how are you? And where can we find you online? And I will add in my own daft comment, because that was I'll put it to you like this. It's tough whenever the GM decides whether or not they're going to cry in the first episode of a show, and I made the conscious decision to do so and was glad I wore my glasses.
Hey, I'm still sad about Ezekon. Well, I don't know. Well, somehow all of us together will get through it. I don't know. I feel like I'm Trooper SJP. You can find me on Twitch at Trooper SJP. I stream on Thursdays and Saturdays. Next, not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday will be part 2 of Cthulhu Confidential that I'm running on my channel, which is 1 player, 1 GM, Noir Cthulhu. If you want to check it out, you can see the first part on VODs. And you can find me on Saturday afternoon. I'll be playing in Scraticus Academy, some D&D. I'll be playing another bard, but this bard will be a nerd bard who probably isn't very charismatic at all, actually. It's just like a sad nerd bard. And you can find me at Academic Foxhole on Twitter, and that's me. But I want to say this. How great is this cast, and how great is Greg? And I'm so excited to be here. And they were like, if you could give special XP points, we could vote to give points to other players, I'd give them to everybody because it was so good. Oh, that's all. I was like, the tension between Varen and Shayla Luna. I was like, oh my goodness, I think I have to step back because I might be stabbed because it's just so intense. And oh, everybody, so good, so good. Oh,
fantastic, my friend, fantastic. And it's funny that you should say that, but we'll put a pin in that for just a second as we go over to JF. JF, my friend. Wait, I skipped over Josh. Let's go to Josh. Josh, my friend, what did you think about tonight? And you and JF started me down the tier works, and it was not fun.
It was a thing. Yeah, I genuinely remember like thinking, I'm really angry that he's dead. Like, I'm really angry, unreasonably angry. But yeah, it's gonna be an emotional journey, and I like the fact that we are all very much here for. I love the thing that draws us together is the funeral. That is just chef's kiss. Beautiful storytelling. A great way to bring together a really diverse and strange group of individuals. Yeah, like I will not harp on about the bard, but I could all day, I promise you. But genuinely, like, one of my favorite moments was just Wim just being like, you an asshole? Like, I know the Witcher universe. Like, I don't take a contract from a man and expect him to be like an honest, good person. Like, I'm suspicious of everybody. That really warmed the cockles in my heart. So, yeah, I'm super excited for that. As for me, you can find me on Twitter. The same link you can see. It should come up in a second there. It is at roleplayers_TV. Follow. I always announce where I am going to be. I am streaming Witcher 3. I wonder why. I might be so obsessed with Witcher of late. I have literally sent Greg like essays upon essays of like backstory and other things. I'm a little obsessed. So myself and role players, aka Tia, will be there streaming Witcher and doing other crazy things. But other than that, got a couple of upcoming shows, but I can't plug them just yet. So I will leave us in the hands of Greg to ferry us along to do so. Damn. Oh, double. Oh.
Right.
So many things.
Fantastic, my friend, fantastic. And let's finally go over to JF. JF, how did you enjoy this evening? And again, I mimic what everybody said here. Everybody brought incredible moments to tonight, and I'm going to add this in before I forget it for JF. That soliloquy that you delivered, that eulogy to Ezekon, was amazing. My friend, amazing.
Thank you. It was heartfelt. I think we've all been through something like this, and if you haven't, good for you. But it was. I love the work that everybody's doing on their characters, everything they're projecting. It's so inspiring. I mean, I don't think I could have opened up in that way if that wasn't the case. I think you set an incredible premise for us that would fuse us together like a fire in a way. So, and I think that's happening. I think that troll is gonna have hell to pay because I think we're all a bit raw at this point. So I'm really looking forward to the next session. You can find me on Twitter at Double Crits. I game also in my neighborhood at the Face Hobby Shop. I got a great group there going, and playing with Donathan Fry and his Patreon campaign, The Dark Sun, and that's incredible. It's been blowing my mind. So this is another wonderful experience. So I'm just feeling blessed right now. So I'm really looking forward to next week. It's gonna be awesome.
Me too, my friend, me too. And now that everybody has spoken, I will say just a few brief things, but I say it first to my players. When we complete this campaign, and hopefully or potentially backstories are revealed, all of you have to come back and watch this episode to see your fellow players' subtle reactions to things that you don't know about at this moment. I do, and was blown away. And I say this for the Legion and everybody watching on VOD as well. If you happen to be watching this episode and we're through everything, when you get to the end, go back and watch this, because these players aren't good. They aren't great. They are amazing. They are these characters in an episode 1 when it's amazing. Even when they're not talking or on camera, their reactions and their attempt to hide them, something to see. So make sure you go back and check, because absolutely fantastic. And because of that fantastic element, you all received 5 IP when you completed the mission, The Sickness of One Left Behind. You also received an additional 5 IP because you're all badasses, and that comes from me. So I am fanning that out for you all for 10 total IP, or XP. It's called IP in this system. Please use it as you will. You acted and role-played your asses off. As for me, my name is Grimjack21502 on the Twitter, part of the Tales from the Grim team here on the Twitch. Things that you can expect. This story's just getting started, everybody, and to say that there are twists and turns is to not do a Gordian knot justice. This is going to be super duper fun. This cast is blowing my mind with their ability to capture these characters already. I cannot wait to see more as the, not the GM. I'm in the front row with all of you watching, which leads me to this. Legion, thank you so much. Everybody that contributed and donated for this first. If your donations did not show up, with the exception of the Winds Howling, you will see all of your donations, your hit point donations, anything that was put will be captured and moved over to session 2 so they can be taken advantage of, especially with combat situations, which looks likely. So make sure you join us next week whenever we see exactly what is a rock troll, what are witchers, what is a bard, and what is a mage that has lost 30 stamina. Whew. Can't wait,
But
everybody.
we get bonus points, right?
No.
Wait for the XP.
That was the XP.
Oh no.
All right, so everybody, thank you so very much, Legion. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for being here. If you haven't followed, please do so you know when we are going live. We have plenty of fun things coming up. The aforementioned Realms Remembered on Monday night. We have a Deadlands game that is being gemmed by the incomparable Other Doc Jim. It is very, very fun. We have on Friday afternoons Monster of the Week by the equally fantastic Katie Faze. But please join us back here next Wednesday for Watchmen at 6 and Witcher at 9. But as the campfire goes down, there's only one thing left to say. You can't always roll nat 20s. By God, you can always roll play. We'll see you next time, friends.